This water is where we earn our living, but it's also this water that's taking away where we live. In one way, it's doing us good, and the other way, it's destroying us. Now we're looking to God to help us. We used to be here, our whole community lived here. Now everywhere is water. We were forced to leave this place. When you see the black under the water, the town used to be there, but the water destroyed everything. We even had a lot of coconuts and other trees, there and here.
4 years ago, Baumi's home stood on solid ground. Today, all that remains of his island is a submerged sandbank, without a trace of the dozens of families who were forced to flee.
Since the water forced us out of our homes, whenever I come here, I remember it was fine to live here. But now we're overcrowded over there. Our conditions are not okay, but we just have to deal with it.
Faced with no choice, Baumi, like others, was forced to move to the neighbouring island of Nangai. But like the rest of Sierra Leone's Turtle Islands, Baumi's new home is itself on borrowed time. Signs of its impending collapse are everywhere. Washed up wooden debris or uprooted trees torn away by the ocean mark the landscape.
We had lots of trees which helped protect the roofs of our homes from the wind. But now, after the water damaged all the trees, any change of weather can destroy the grass on the roofs of our homes.
The loss of the island's natural barrier means what's left of the village is now exposed to waves. With recent storm surges, part of Nangai has been swallowed up by the ocean, leaving people without shelter.
Every year now, every August, the water invades everything, as if there's no more island. When the water comes, it destroys what we have, our property. As you can see on the video, it destroys a lot. Almost everything is destroyed when it happens.
Those who could leave their homes have already fled. 15 years ago, Nangai had 3,000 residents. Today, the population barely reaches 400. As the water encroaches, many residents question whether they should leave, and if so, where they could go.
I've got to say, on the island we have 0 mosquitoes, and if a snake gets in here, that's by accident. These are some of the reasons why we don't want to leave the island.
But we can't leave because we're too poor. If we had money, we wouldn't stay here when the water is threatening us.
We have nowhere to go. Those who could leave have left.
The story is similar across the archipelago. Thousands of people remain trapped, ominously waiting for the rising sea to take what little is left of their land. In southern Sierra Leone, few villages are safe from the sea. Even Banff, the provincial capital and a refuge for displaced islanders, struggles to hold back the encroaching waters. 2019 marked the start of a coastal wall project aimed at protecting over 1 kilometre of shoreline. But construction has since stalled due to lack of funds.
The materials bringing over them to the island is a challenge. We used to have a very good ferry as a council that was used to transport all of these materials. Today, the ferry is damaged. It's totally out of use. It's not seaworthy again.
Over 2 million people in Sierra Leone are at risk of displacement due to rising sea levels, making it one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change in the world. Combined with decades of extreme poverty, coastal erosion has created an inescapable cycle for the country's poorest communities. In the heart of Freetown, Crew Bay is one of the most densely populated informal settlements in the country. The entire neighbourhood was built directly on the water and remains a legacy for the 11-year-long civil war.
The war started in the provinces So after the war, people migrate, come to Freetown, and most of the people find themselves in Kube community because of the low cost of rentage, you know. The fastest growing slum in terms of population is Kube community. You know, currently the population is about 40,000.
Already overcrowded, newcomers to Crew Bay are being forced to the sea. In 20 years, the area has expanded 400 meters directly onto the water. Residents have built artificial ground from the city's discarded plastic, capitalizing on the lack of waste management.
All the scrap, this is used slippers. As you can see, plastic, cement paper, rubber, dirt, dust, stone. These are all made of debunking.
The race for space has made this one of the most at-risk areas when it comes to rising sea levels. On the waterfront, residents are already preparing for the worst as climate change tightens its grip.
I'm really worried about it because we faced this problem many times before. Some days the sky turns dark and causes damage, especially during the rainy season. Then, with the change of weather and heavy winds, the water rises from the seabed. And then it's a disaster.
The city has banned new construction in certain areas to prevent collapse. But some continue to dig, piling up sand and garbage to push the shoreline further out.
Not pay, but they give you a token. Yes, you know, like go and buy water. Yes, go and buy something to eat. Sometimes you're gonna do things, you know, just for you to survive.
A daily struggle that has lasted for generations in Crew Bay. One that may ultimately be the end of this community. A relentless cycle where poverty deepens the country's vulnerability to coastal flooding and may even play a role in driving it. As the population grows and construction expands, so does the demand for sand, even at the cost of the shoreline, hastening its retreat. On John Obey Beach, 30 kilometers from Freetown, sand is extracted on an industrial scale. Local authorities have tried to limit the impact on the coastline, restricting operations to just 3 days a week. But the consequences are already being felt by locals.
So as you can see, this is how this place was before. But because of the sand mining, the land has been wiped away by the sea. It brings income to the community, but it also has some negative impact that it creates forever in the environment.
For many in John Obey, the sacrifice is worth it. Around 500 families rely on sand extraction to put food on the table, in a place that relies on the industry for its own development.
We use the money to build our schools, build our hospitals, build the dam. This sand mining improve a lot the well-being of people in this community.
Sand extraction is not the only factor accelerating coastal erosion. Over the past few decades, urbanization has taken a heavy toll on the coastline's population of mangroves. Since the 1980s, Sierra Leone has lost 40% of its mangrove forests. In the areas surrounding the capital, mangrove wood has become an essential resource for the most vulnerable communities.
These are the remains of the logs that have been cut from the mangrove. They will be using this log to construct house because it's a very strong wood.
In this neighborhood alone, more than 20 hectares of mangroves have been cleared in just a few years following population increase.
After they have deforested the mangrove, they have constructed their house, they are now facing the flood impact that have affected their property and their children that are residing there because there are no more natural barriers that reduce the rise in sea level.
A pattern seen across many of the city's coastal neighbourhoods, forcing the local council to act. In 2020, Freetown launched a community planting project with the aim of replanting the lost mangroves to protect the vulnerable neighbourhoods. Local residents are involved, directly monitoring the trees' growth.
I see a lot of trees that will survive, some they're about to germinate.
As a monitor, David visits the mangrove forests bordering his neighbourhood of Ojuku. He removes debris brought in by the tides and documents plant growth for a central database.
So they're about to track this particular tree for its track, because now tree already been done track before. So they're about for its track for let we know among the trees that will plant, if in a one part one will survive.
A tedious documentation process paid just €10 a day. An attractive offering when the average monthly salary is €67 a month. The local government hopes to create greener jobs in this community and longer-term protection measures.
You don't get a time na Ojuku we get a flood. Like me, a victim, water enter my house, spoil properties then. But I know they do this because me, you don't have to put me, but for other people and future generation, we know how to put it.
So we tell them the economical benefits the mangrove can provide for them as community without cutting them down, example by doing the oyster farming.
Since the launch of this campaign in 2020, Freetown has replanted more than 1.2 million trees and created a total of 1,500 jobs in the community, part of a long-term battle to alleviate the effects of climate change and reduce extreme poverty.
They are absolutely linked. If you want to change what people do, you need to speak to them under the mango tree. It needs to be their voices, their words, conversation, and involvement. Because this poverty, at a personal level, which climate change exacerbates, also has a societal and a national level.
To fund its battle against climate change, the city is banking on future carbon credit sales from its reforested land. With nearly a quarter of Sierra Leone's population at risk from rising waters, the city is fighting for sustainability and survival.